Right, so welcome to Friday on the Pagan Perspective. It's Subs Week. I'm Yucca, and this week we are talking about lucid dreaming. So I've been having a really hard time filming this video because I tried to film outside at first and it's quite windy. In fact, it's so windy that it's almost painful to be outside. And my inside animals, my cat and dog, are both very worked up and hyper right now. And you can hear the dog in the background, and the cat is in his attacking feet and hands mode. So anyways, I'm going to try and film this for you, and let's see how it goes. So, lucid dreaming, when I read this topic, I was super excited about it, because this is something that is actually very important to me in my practice, and it's something that has played a very significant role in my life. So I've got the opportunity to share that with you guys. So that's what I'm going to do. The first part of this video, I'm going to share with you my own story relative to lucid dreaming. And in the second half, I want to share with you some techniques that you can do for in dream work in general, be it lucid or not lucid, things that you can do in those, and maybe some practices for helping you to develop the lucid dreaming skills if that's something that you'd like to do. So to start, some of the other hosts have kind of given a definition already. But basically what lucid dreaming is it's being aware that you are asleep. While you are asleep, it's like waking up within the dream. Now, there's also something called dream control, and that often goes along with the dream awareness or the lucid dreaming. They don't necessarily always happen together though. For instance, you've probably experienced having a nightmare in which you suddenly realize that you're asleep, but you can't wake up from it, and you can't do anything about it. That would be a situation of being in a lucid dream and yet having no dream control. And then there are other cases where you decide in your dream that you're going to do something, like you decide that you're going to fly, or you choose to do things, and yet you're still not really conscious that you are in fact dreaming. So they don't always happen together, but often when you're lucid and when you can stay asleep, because that's one of the most challenging things, is to actually stay asleep as soon as you realize that you're lucid, that you are dreaming. Usually control comes along with that. Most of the time when people refer to lucid dreaming, they're referring to both of those things at the same time. And so for the rest of the video, I'm going to do the same thing. So my story with lucid dreaming is that because of the type of family I came from, when I was a very small child, the first time I remember this happening, I had to have been maybe 4 years old. Like any child or any person really, I would have nightmares. And when I'd go to my parents about my nightmares, I would tell them, I'd wake up and say that I had this nightmare and it was scary, and I'd describe it. And their response would be something like telling me, that they were sorry that I had that dream, and they could relate because they had scary dreams before too. But to remember it was just a dream, and to try going back to sleep. Well, they'd tell me, not actually try, they'd tell me to go back to sleep and tell the monster that was chasing me, or whatever the negative situation or the scary situation was, to change that. If it was a monster, tell them that it was my dream, and it was simply not acceptable to chase me in my dream. So sometimes that would work, and obviously sometimes that wouldn't work. But from a very small child, I never trained myself, or was never taught to think that I didn't have control over my dreams. It was sort of a given that you could influence and impact your dreams just as you can in waking life. Maybe more so in dreams than in waking life. So throughout all of my childhood, there would be times in which I would be aware that I was dreaming, which was a lucid dream. But somewhere around, I would have been 5th grade, probably 10, 11 years old. Cat is climbing on the shelves, and I don't want him to knock things over. Sorry. So around that time, I started to have a lot of them, and that's when I was doing a lot of reading at that time, and I started to explore just on my own, going to the worlds in the books that I was reading about, because I was really getting into fantasy settings and all of that sort of thing, and I was just reading a tremendous amount of literature. And I mentioned this to my father. My mother had passed away already at this point, but he got really excited about that because it was something that he was aware of. He knew what lucid dreams were, and I told him the sort of things that I was doing. So he went out and got me a whole bunch of different books on different things that you can do to learn, and he worked with me on developing some sort of techniques. So I had somewhat of a teacher or guide, even though lucid dreaming isn't something that he normally practices. But as a kid at that time, it was really very helpful to have that. So I continue to do that, and I've done that throughout the rest of my life, up until this point. And I still do it. It's something that happens in cycles. It's more important for a certain period of time, and then I sort of ease off of it and go back to it. But some of the things that I do with that is particularly I use it when I need to do personal healing, because I already have very strong visualization abilities. But in a dream setting, in a lucid dream setting, it's so much more vivid. And at least I experience all of my senses in a dream. So I can, for instance, if I have like a respiratory infection and I want to sort of address that, there's things that I'll do on a purely physical, I'll drink some tea and I'll have lots of vitamins and echinacea, all of that sort of thing, but I also want to do some sort of visualization. And so I will enter lucid dream and do something like visualize myself exploring my respiratory tract, as usually I'll see it as like a series of caves or something like that, and go through and in the dream clean it out, like if clean cobwebs or sweep it out or do that sort of thing. And that's something that you can do in a meditative state when you are in your normal waking life. It's something that you can do in a sort of journeying, people have used other words for like kind of vision quest, like a continued meditation. But in the dream world, it's something that you can also do, and I usually use it for that. And for sort of exploring fears and just sort of personal work. So that's what I do with lucid dreaming. I also keep a dream journal. I have for years. Again, that's something that I don't do religiously, in terms of I don't every single morning write the dream down. But if it seemed important, I do, and I really encourage other folks to do that. If that's something that you're interested in, I think you can tell a lot about it's a good tool, and that's what lucid dreaming is, and dream journaling and that sort of thing. They're tools that you can use to help understand yourself. So before moving on to the next part, one of the biggest things that people seem to be concerned about with lucid dreaming is they go, well, I don't want to lucid dream because I want to have my normal dreams. But at least for me and for everything that I've read and people that I've talked to, the majority of your dreams will still be normal dreams, should you decide to start lucid dreaming, or if you do. For me, I don't know any numbers, but in my normal life that I can remember, I probably have a couple lucid dreams a week, and they frankly probably last a few minutes, and the majority of the rest of everything else is just a normal dream, and it's your normal dream cycle, and you're gonna go through and get the rest that you need and the processing that you need. It's only lucid when you choose, and if you practice, you can become lucid and decide that, hey, I don't want to be lucid right now, I just want to have a normal dream, and you let go of that consciousness or that awareness that you have in the dream. Okay, so this is starting to get long, so let me move on to the next part. So this has been suggested before already, but a great way to learn to start to have lucid dreams is to pay more attention to your dreams in general. So keeping a dream journal is going to be a tremendous help. I think that the easiest way, and I'm going to suggest this technique first before some of the other ones, is to wake up sometime in the early morning, well, it's still dark, preferably, when you're having the most REM cycles. So you go through dreams, you go through these cycles of the different stages, And then you get to the REM, the REM, which is the rapid eye movement. And you've seen your dog do this when they're kicking, or your child when their eyes are moving around really fast. That's when they're in the dream state. And the rest of the time you're not really dreaming in the way that we think of dreams. Your brain is going through some other processes. But as the night progresses, that cycle is going to speed up. So you're going to have more REM. So my suggestion is to set your alarm clock, wake up when it goes off, but don't get out of bed, don't open your eyes, don't take the little stuff out of your eyes. Go close your eyes and go back to sleep. But make the effort gently though, because the harder you cling to something, the more that you're going to stay awake, right? So you want to just relax back into your dream and try and direct your dream. And you might not always be able to stay lucid, especially at the beginning, but you can direct where your dream is going. You can start thinking about puppies or something like that, or red trees or something like that, and your dream you can slide back from the consciousness back into the dream. For me, most of the time that I do lucid dreaming as an effort for things like I talked about with healing, that's when I do it. I set my alarm clock and I go into sleep from there. Something that you'll read that other people suggest doing, and I've talked to other people who say this has worked, is before you go to sleep each night to tell yourself and to say that you are going to become lucid during your dreams. So it's not something usually for people who are just starting from scratch that they can just be able to do right away. It takes weeks, it takes months of just a constant telling yourself that that's what you're going to do. So those are some, and then there's some other things you can get a simple book. Hang on. I just pulled these off the shelf. These are two of the ones that my father bought me. I'm sure that they cost practically nothing if you get them off of Amazon or something like that, or your local bookstore if you have one. And they go through a lot of different techniques if it's something that you want to do. I'm sure I haven't looked on the internet, but I'm sure there's great sites. There's things like the goggles that you can get or things like that, and there's a lot of different techniques to help you do it. But the biggest part is just being persistent about it. So, let's see. So the next greatest challenge to actually getting yourself to become conscious in your dream is to stay asleep when you actually realize that you're dreaming. Because most of the time you go, oh, I'm dreaming, and you will wake up. You will, whatever your process of waking up, I always feel like I'm kind of going through this goo or saran wrap, this process. But you'll start to wake up. Now, what I do, and I think that one of these books, or, this is probably a pretty common technique, it's one of the ones that my father helped me learn, is as soon as I start to realize that I'm waking up, to start spinning in my dream. And that, for some reason, helps ground me back into the dream world. Focusing on something that's in the dream, trying to stay in it, and then again, the not intensely trying to resist if you do start to wake up. Don't tense up, because that's going to force you to wake up more. Relax, spin, look at something in the dream, something like that. And if you do wake up, don't get upset, just relax yourself back into sleep and try and return to that same spot. In general dream working, when it's not lucid and it's something that your unconscious mind is doing, and let's say you write it down in a journal. Some people suggest getting a dream book that talks about what do these symbols recognize and how do you interpret and all of that. My suggestion would be not to do that at all. Because I think that your brain and your mind will make associations that the authors didn't make, or that you might not be a member of the culture that those assumptions are coming from. So what a bowl of rice means to me is probably very different to what a bowl of rice means to someone from Paraguay or somebody from Tokyo, or, you know, that we're going to have very different associations with what that symbol means. So my suggestion would be to try and figure that out for yourself and look at your dream as it relates to your world and the things that you're experiencing. Now, the more you keep track of your dreams, the more you write them down and just start thinking about them. Even if you start writing them down and one day you forget, simply the practice of being conscious of those and remembering them will help you remember them more in general. So yeah, this video is getting really long, and I hope that I've kind of talked about this enough to get across what the point is and maybe excited you a little bit about it if it's something that you're interested in. Check out books, really, and folks who, if you talk to someone who does some lucid dreaming, and I know to some folks it seems like a really kind of out there idea, but it can be a really powerful tool, and it can be an incredibly enjoyable tool too. So, all right, I hope you guys have a great week and take care.